All right. Good night, everyone. Welcome to Comics Asylum Live with Steve and Jay. Steve's running solo. That's me running solo tonight. Jay is doing some big purchases, so he's been quite busy the last couple of weeks. But I'm here with Frederick J. Littles and Jim Reed from Wise Acre Comics, and we are gonna, we got some great things to talk about this week. We're gonna look at indie comics, their Kickstarter campaign for Western Vengence, and then we're also going to take a look at the theme of revenge and vengeance in pop culture, whether it's comic books, movies, or even video games. So, welcome to the Asylum, gentlemen.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So, how's the week been for you?
You want to go first, Fred? Or?
I'm in recovery mode right now. So I just finished up Phoenix Fan Infusion, and let me tell you, I am wore out. 3 days of just convention and everything. It was a great convention. I'll definitely be back next year. But I was sore, I was tired, I was drained. It is no joke. So I'm in recovery mode.
It's interesting. I'll let Jim go first, but I'm also in recovery mode, and I'll tell you why. Jim, go ahead.
I'm not in recovery mode. I'm just running around with my kids, man. That keeps me busy.
That'll wear you out quicker than anything else, to be honest with you.
All day, every day, man.
And I find the smaller they are, the faster they are for some reason. Can't catch them.
Yes.
For sure. So, Frederick, I'm the same way. I was at TCAF, which is a huge indie fest here in Toronto, and it was a 2-day event. Fantastic. It was in downtown Toronto, and I'm wore out as well too. It took me probably a little bit, like maybe late last night, before I started to feel like myself. I was absolutely smashed. Like just meeting everybody, saying hi to everyone who came by the table. It gets to you.
Yes.
And I'm not a young man anymore, judging by these white things growing out of my chin.
I got some right here too, man.
All right, so without further ado, let's get into Western Vengence. It is a Kickstarter campaign that you got running for an upcoming project that you've got. Please tell us more about it, and we'll take a deep dive into the campaign in a sec.
I'm going to let you take it over, Jim.
Okay, appreciate it. I just kind of started off reading Western comics. What was it? The All-Star Western from New 52, DC Comics way back in the day. And kind of when that ended, didn't really see any Western comics, new ones that were coming out. I bought back issues and whatnot. And then one day I saw my kid running around with the cowboy hat, and I was like, let me try to write one, and kind of maybe a different character than usual, a different main character, just because my son doesn't look like, I guess, a typical cowboy or what have you. So I was like, all right, let me do that, and then maybe like a father-son type thing, because it's kind of hard just writing one character, nothing to really bounce words off of, I guess, so to speak. So I was like, all right, we'll do a father-son thing, just because I kind of liked buddy cop movies back from the 80s and 90s, that kind of vibe. So, and then really it's just essentially a revenge type deal. They're going to hunt down the people that killed their family.
Nothing like a good revenge story.
Yeah.
Excellent. And were you a fan of Westerns when you were younger? Like, why did you pick the Western genre?
Really, honestly, not really. It just kind of started off with that comic that I read with the New 52. I was like, oh man, Western comics seem pretty cool. Granted, Tombstone is like one of my all-time favorite movies. Tombstone. I remember Young Guns when I was a kid, in a posse, which I actually think they came out with the second one, but I haven't checked that one out yet. But those were the ones that I watched back in the day. So yeah, that's pretty much it right there.
And Fred, what was it about the comic?
I think you're breaking up there for a little bit. What was the question again?
What was it about the project that made it want to be a part of the brand?
I'm going to guess, but I think you're breaking up. But I'm going to try to answer this question. One thing about Western Vengence that captured me, when Jim submitted it to me, I had a chance to read the entire book, right? And it blew me away. I was like, we need more of this in our indie space. And a lot of people don't really tackle Western within indie comics. And so one thing that really captured me, like I said, Tombstone, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, those things, those movies and stuff, True Grit, he had a great story behind it. And then the characters, this father and son duo and everything, right, really captured the essence of what Western comics should be about. And so I had to publish this book. It's doing great right now on Kickstarter and everything too. Hey folks, look, Jim has a hit on his hands. And one thing I asked Jim early on was, this book looks like an image book. It looks like it belonged with Boom, all those big indie companies, everything out there. It looks the part. And so I'm very proud that, I get a chance to publish this book and also see, Jim's story come to life.
Yeah, no, I've had a chance to take a look at the campaign, and it's doing well. The book looks great. Love the art. And I love the orange bronze kind of tones you've got throughout a lot of the pages. I was a big Western fan growing up. My family, like my uncles and my dad, we'd watch Clint Eastwood and stuff like that. And Outlaw Josie Wales, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So a lot of Saturday and Sunday afternoons when I was a kid watching the Western genre. And I think you've got a hit here on your hands as well, too. So we're going to dive into the Kickstarter, and you can feel free to kind of, add in anything that you want to just give us a bit of a heads up on what we're looking at. All right. So you can see here that we have 26 backers with 22 days to go. You've already made your goal, so you know that this project will absolutely come to market. And it says lock and load for 22 pages of wild shootouts, sharp one-liners, and explosive father-son fury in a showdown of the Old West. Nothing like taking justice into your own hands. And so it's part of Wise Acre Comics, which is Fred's indie imprint. And the project overview. Zane Shields witnessed the brutal murder of his family when he was 15. With nowhere to go, he began working the cattle trails, where he was regarded as one of the best fighters, marksmen, and trackers ever to work the trails. Now, with the mysterious return of Zane's father, Pa, they are on a mission to exact revenge on the men who murdered their family, a mission of vengeance, Western Vengeance. So, who is the artist? Because I really like the art style.
His name is Fritz Casas. And I stumbled upon him on Twitter, actually, probably 7 years ago, when it was called Twitter. But actually there was I forget who his rep was, I guess, but there's a website, and basically on the website it has all these different artists. So I was like, all right, just kind of checking out all their art styles and whatnot. And then I was like, all right, who can I afford? Because it had like big name guys on there too. I can't think off the top of my head, but I mean, they're like people on DC books, like Batman, like major books. But I saw his style and I was like, all right, this guy, he looks really good. He did pencils and inks. So that kind of cut down on the cost as well. When the artist does pencil and inks. But yeah, I thought he was great. Awesome to work with. But yeah, and I sent him a picture of my child when he was wearing his cowboy hat, which basically gave me the inspiration of the character. And I was like, hey man, can you do a 15-year age progression? Because I think he was 5 at the time, 4 or 5. And I mean, this is what he came up with. I think he knocked it out of the park. So yeah, hats off to him. I would definitely recommend him to anyone.
No, definitely. I have to say, I'm really impressed with the look of the book, and Wise Acre produces great stuff all the time. So I really, should not be surprised at all. We'll dig into a lot of the products that Wise Acre is producing for those of you who are not aware. But this really captures the feel of, as you mentioned, like things like True Grit, Tombstone, Unforgiven, which is probably one of the greatest, westerns of all time. If you're a Clint Eastwood fan or a fan of revenge flicks, that's one that I would suggest that you take a look at. And the production of the book looks fantastic. How long did it take to get everything done? And is the book completely finished?
Yeah, it's completely finished. Honestly, I think it was finished a couple years ago. I was just kind of shopping it around. Like haphazardly. Yeah, it was finished a couple years ago. I think it took around probably like a year or so to complete. I guess it went relatively quickly. It's my first comic to ever do, so I don't know what the typical timeline is. And I was taking my time too. I mean, we didn't have any deadlines because I didn't have a publisher or anything like that. So I was like, all right, we can just do it whenever there's no deadline. But yeah, it was, I think it was completed in about a year. And I mean, hats off to the colorist and the letter as well. Appreciate those guys. AHG is the colorist, and Taylor Esposito did the letters.
Excellent. I'm going to see if I can get us back to back here. So if you're backing Western Vengeance #1, it says, by supporting Western Vengeance, you're bringing to life a gritty Western comic with a 1980s, early 90s buddy cop movie vibe, except these buddies are father and son. So the genre is Western action. Format is paperback floppy. Page count 22. And you have 2 covers, and we got some more artwork here. And so, is this going to be part of a mini series? Is it going to be an ongoing offering from Wise Acre? How's this going to play out?
I mean, I have probably 4 or 5 other issues in mind, but I mean, honestly, this could be a standalone.
And I assume down the road, because this one's gonna hit, obviously, we can expect a trade. Is there a trade in the offering down the road? Fred, you can answer that one if you'd like.
Oh no, that definitely be up to Jim and everything. Like I said, I love his work and everything on this series. Again, if he has more story to tell, we definitely love it to take that route and bring more of the story out.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, definitely. If put those out in the future, a trade would definitely be offered.
Excellent. So let's take a look at your. Let's see if I can get this going here. I want to take a look at your tiers, or you just have the A and B covers. So that's your blue cover, and that's your A cover. Do you have any other little stretch goals or anything in mind?
Yeah.
Yes, there's. You can go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, I think there's multiple things in the reward section and everything like that too at the same time. We have a variety of. If you love original artwork, I know Jim has his main artist and everything on to produce some fan art, characters and everything too at the same time. That's a part of some of the reward tiers. And then at the end of the day, I'm very cognizant of the fact that when we do stretch goals, we want to make sure we hit our goal and everything first and foremost. And then once we hit that goal, we'll make some announcements of the stretch goals down the road. So we're a little bit away from hitting the goal just as of yet, but we're almost there. But once that happens, I'll definitely get with GM to discuss stretch goals going forward to the future. I'm a big fan of metal art, so we'll see what happens.
Excellent. So let's take a look at some of these stretch goals. So available rewards, you've got the digital PDF. Let's take a look at it, and it's going for $5 US. And then you've got the digital deluxe. And that, I guess you get both covers with the digital deluxe. And after that, we've got Vengeance #1, which is, I'm assuming this is the floppy version.
Correct.
And you get both the physical and the digital and the art bundle with that. And then you also have the add-ons, which are cover A, the blue cover, and the Wise digital bundle. Next up, we've got Vengeance #2. We have the double shot KS exclusive. So what goes into the KS exclusive?
So this would be both covers here. You also get the digital format as well as the digital artwork bundle. So you get both the original cover and the blue cover.
Excellent. And that's going for $25 US. Then we have Bloody Tears, which gives you the physical, the both covers, digital, the art bundle, and a 6x9 poster. And after that, we have the Colt 1851. That's for $50 US. And that gives you everything that we mentioned before. And then we have a metal bookmarker. Those are always cool. Little add-ons. After that, we have our Duel. And that's going for $75. And the custom sketch, you can basically then get anything that you want. It doesn't have to be limited to Western Vengence.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, excellent. And that's going to be a 9x12. So that's pretty great. So if anyone's interested in backing this, please jump on. There's over 20 days left, and there's some really amazing rewards that you can get. And Fritz is an amazing artist, as we've seen in some of the previews. So if you can get a custom sketch from him, then that's even more amazing than just getting the book. And then we have the High Noon, which is going for $125. And that has everything that we had before, including the sketch, but no background. And then we have our Lone Ranger, where you'll get the 9x12, but with a background. And as someone who has done convention sketches, doing backgrounds as a convention sketch, that's sometimes a tall order. So you're getting value for what you're putting in there for that pledge. And after that, we have the Collector #1 Renegade, which gives you 7 items. That is going for $375. So this is one of the top tier rewards. And that gives you everything that you had before, including an 11x17 pinup. And that's going to be an original piece of artwork.
Yes.
And last but not least, we have our Collector #2 Aces High, where everything that we had before, including an 11x17 pinup with 2 characters with a background. So that's basically getting a full page of original artwork. Yeah. So there's some really great rewards there, for sure. So, gentlemen, revenge. It fuels your story. Definitely. What were some of your favorite revenge stories? Either comics, movies, or video games, when you were either a kid or even as an adult. Which ones have stuck with you?
I can go first, I guess.
Yeah, sure, Jim.
John Wick is awesome. That's the most recent one, definitely, I can think of. Super cool. Remember when the first one came out, I was like, all right, I'll go check this out. Haven't seen Keanu Reeves in in something in a while. Let's see what he can do. Plus, I mean, I like him, but yeah, man, it was awesome. I thought that movie was great.
Yeah, I'm definitely a John Wick fan myself and everything too. So I love that series. But when it coming to like comic books, characters and stuff like that as well, some of my best ones are the Punisher, Batman. Especially, I love the Punisher. That to me, that revenge story and everything with Frank Castle is just raw and gritty, and so it really captures the essence of revenge in a way because there's so much pain that's involved into it as well.
No, most definitely. I think of movies like Gladiator. I remember Gladiator as a kid. There was just something about I think it was Joaquin Phoenix. He was such a good villain in it that even though I knew he was just playing a role, it was like I wanted him dead. It was amazing. And then Russell and Ridley Scott, like that one stands out for me. Obviously, John Wick is great. Kill Bill is another one. Old Boy. I remember watching the Korean version and totally loving that. And I would say one of the modern ones that kind of caught me or caught my interest in film, at least, was Taken. I couldn't believe how good that film was. As I was sitting there watching it with my cousin, where it's like every 5 minutes I just nudge him and go, "This is really good. This movie's really good." And I guess Liam Neeson basically, I guess, sort of like Keanu, although Keanu didn't really resurrect his career, but he found a second life in those kind of films. And Jason Statham has basically been rocking the revenge kick for the last 4 or 5 movies.
Yeah,
the working man or the beekeeper or whatever he is.
Yeah, I watch them all. Yeah,
Yep.
Beekeeper was on Prime.
Yeah, for sure. And when I was a kid, it was martial arts movies. So someone's uncle got killed or the temple got raided, and then it was just 45 minutes to an hour of we got to even stuff up.
Yeah.
So what is it about the revenge motif that you think is so appealing?
I think it really captures the human emotions in a way, right? It drives not only the character motivation behind the story and everything too at the same time. It gets a little bit personal. It's very compelling, and so you have that conflict, that yin and yang there, so you get that pull that draws people in. And I think that's why people really, really love revenge movies and comics and everything else in between.
And Jim?
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, I mean, you might some people might be like, "Oh yeah, if that happened to me, I'd probably go do that too." Or I don't know. You kind of put yourself in that situation and think to yourself what you would do. But yeah, I totally agree with Fred.
And I guess the Western gives you the most freedom to kind of explore that theme because there's a certain almost like inherent lawlessness to the Wild West, as they say. Society's not fully it's not fully organized yet. There's a lot of open space. There's no real police force where you have like a precinct, down the street. You're pretty much on your own. And if you're up against something that you can't handle, that kind of exacting revenge kind of thing, that genre lends itself really well because it's the characters against the world and almost like there's no hope. And I think that's I think what's like we're kind of built on hope. A lot of the stories we read are like you want a good resolution at the end, and you can't get deeper or further into a pit than when everything's taken from you, whether it's a loved one or your wealth or your standing, and the only way to get it back is to take it or at least even things against the person that's done you wrong. And there's a lot of Westerns where you get that moment, that turn at the end where it's like you got to wipe out everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
And so were there any were there any tropes that you tried to either emulate or stay away from, Jim, when you were writing Western Vengeance?
The tropes, I guess the main one it kind of fell into was the buddy cop type deal, but I was like, all right, I don't want to make it two friends, because it's usually two friends or two people from like opposite sides of the whatever differing views or something like that. But I was like, all right, I haven't really seen like a father-son type, I guess, movie or even like Western, where they're teaming up and doing stuff. Granted, I'm not a movie connoisseur, so it could be out there, but I just kind of off the top of my head, I didn't remember any Westerns really like that. So, these, like the dad and the son, they don't exactly, look alike. So I think that's an added kind of like, how did they come to be type deal. So just kind of throwing in some little things like that. But yeah, the relationship, definitely kind of chopping it up with each other, talking trash a little bit. But so kind of try to go into that trope. And that's kind of how me and my son are. So just kind of used our what we might be saying to each other back in the day.
Well, they do say write what you know, right? So
yeah, that's basically what I did here. So.
And what is it about the father-son dynamic that interested you so much, other than kind of wanted to represent the relationship you have with your son in a comic?
Excuse me. Yeah, just trying to make a kind of a fun story, but like a nice father-son type deal. At the end of the day, dad's trying to look out for his son, trying to do his best, and I guess maybe tries to be his conscience, but he's not the best at using words or anything like that. He's just kind of lets him do his own thing. He'll throw in some tidbits here and there, but he kind of lets him do his own thing. So,
and does that freedom ever, not to give away too many story points, but does that freedom ever run afoul of what they need to do?
No, it doesn't. Without getting too much in future stories, honestly, it doesn't play a part in it that much.
Okay, so you kind of got like Lethal Weapon, but Riggs and Murtaugh are father and son.
Yes, pretty much. Maybe some 48 hours. I don't know. No, not like that. But
yeah, no, 48 hours works too. Yeah, yeah. That I guess is that one of the kind of like in terms of movies? Is that one of the earliest ones? Because I guess on TV you had like Starsky and Hutch, and in Westerns you've always had the Maverick Brothers or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, I'm looking back, I'm just thinking, were there any buddy cop movies pre 48 hours? At least that's the one that smashed it. And then everything, from that, in that decade, the 80s was all about buddy cop.
Yeah. That's what I remember. 48 Hours and Lethal Weapon. Those were my movies when I was a kid. Love those movies. Probably shouldn't have been watching them when I was a kid, but yeah, we'll go back to the 80s, man. Parents were like, hey, this is on, you can watch it. So
yeah, the first electronic babysitters really was the TV.
No disrespect to my parents out
there. No, they did great. So Fred, what was it? How did you meet Jim? How did you, like, what was it? Something that, did he approach you? What was it that got him on your radar and you were like, yeah, I got to have him part of the fold?
Yeah, so usually I run a submission process and everything, and I get quite a few submissions throughout the year. And Jim's submission came through the pipeline, through the weeds and everything there, and I looked at it, and I was getting ready to close my submission queue up for the year and everything as well. And usually submissions are hit and miss sometimes, right? But Jim's submission really caught my eye. It was a finished product for one thing. That's you hardly ever get submissions that really look like that. They're partially done. And so when he told me the book was completed, and when I looked at it, I was like, okay, why are you choosing Wise Acre Comics? This should be with Image. I'm like, this looks really good. And And so, his story, when we sat down and talked everything about it too, he told me about his son and how it was a part of the story and what he did to create his character really resonated with me, because to me that's more personal than anything else, and that's something we really look at when it comes to creating stories here at Wise Acre Comics. As creators, always go back to the personal aspect of how does the story relate to you, or you just writing the story, right? And everyone that's a part of this house family, their story is personal to them, and to me they have more personality and everything, more themselves, that really bring their story out to the forefront. And so I'm just glad Jim came with Wise Acre Comics, because this book is amazing. I'm telling folks out there, man, if they miss this book, they're missing a good treat here, because this is a heck of a book. This should be on everybody's bookshelf. Jim and his team has done an amazing job crafting a great Western story that we don't get enough of this within this space. It can be the big two or indie. It doesn't really matter. We don't get enough of this right here. We need this book.
I appreciate that.
And what is it about indie comics and Kickstarters? Like, it's given indie creators an avenue to get their stuff out there. But what were some of the challenges for anyone who's watching this that's interested in kind of going down the path that you did, Jim, where you kind of did it unsolicited? You were like, I need to make this, and you went out, you found your artist, and you found him on Twitter. Like, what is it about the indie space and crowdfunding that just appeals to everybody?
So I'll be honest. I was like, man, I don't have time to do a Kickstarter. Like, I can get it completed. I'm like, I just want to finish this book, but I need to reach out to someone who can help me out with that. Because I mean, I'm just being honest, I don't have the time. I know Kickstarter, it's very time consuming. You got to know what you're doing. Fred obviously does. So I'm definitely glad he picked up my book, or the book that I'm working on, the book that I worked on with other people. So yeah, I was just like, man, I got it here. I mean, I submitted it to a couple of the big, Image, Dark Horse. But I was like, man, I can't do a Kickstarter. So I will, let me reach out to Wise. His website looked cool. The books looked really nice, really good quality. So I'm like, let me check this guy out and see if he'll accept this. And he did. Very appreciative of that.
And Fred, what's the Kickstarter experience like for you? You're kind of like a pro at it now.
So yeah, I don't use Kickstarter as a crutch or everything in a way. I use it as a stepping stone, right, to get to the next level where we want to go. And so I run a tight ship. One of the biggest things and stuff I tell creators and everything too, before you even launch a Kickstarter, it has to be at least 75% complete, which means we're ready to go and ready to ship and fill these books within the time they matter. And so I love the platform because, again, it give us opportunity to build exposure for young indie creators, everything out there. And you asked a very important question: why indie? Indie give us freedom without restrictions. We don't have restrictions when it comes to playing our playground. We can create stories, as we see fit, things that we enjoy, which I think is very important, especially for this space, everything right here. But one of the biggest things, though, about indie is community. It's really building a community of a variety of diverse audiences and everything too at the same time. And so they have a selection at their plate and everything to select, to where we try to make sure that plate is full with stories. And so I love this space. Kickstarter is just a vehicle to deliver and produce product and everything, make sure we fulfill those orders in a timely manner. But there's more that comes with it outside of Kickstarter, though, too.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned community, because it's one of the things. That's why you go to the conventions, really. It's to not only grow your brand, but also to meet the people that have supported you. And if you've been lucky enough to have successful crowdfunding endeavors, and then you've got more than one product out, and they come back, that's pretty rewarding. And it's happened to us with Atrium, and we're eternally thankful for everyone that comes by our table at the cons, and either is a new Atrium fan or is looking for subsequent issues. And I'm sure the con you're at, it was the same thing for you this weekend.
It was. I would tell you, and I would tell Jim this and everything too, because I have like a display of all of our books and everything, to where I actually showcase in the back of my background. And on there was Western Vengence. I cannot tell you how many people were asking about that book. Like, do you have this book? I said, we're launching the Kickstarter right now. You can go to the page and everything and purchase your copy of this book right now. And so, I passed out so many books, just cards and everything. But so many people were really intrigued in Western Vengence. It just brings something new to the table. And I think that's why I said indie is one of the best places to be.
Yeah, most definitely. And what were some of the challenges? Like, Jim came to you with a complete book, right? And you've recommended at least having 75% done. But what happens if the book's, like in Jim's case, it's been paid for, and there's something where you're like, we need to tweak something? How much editorial, I don't want to use the word advice do you want to give, or is it more like they free reign to the creator? How does it work at Wise?
So normally I give the creator free reign and everything, right? We do have a new editor in chief and everything too at the same time, so they have opportunities to submit their works and everything to different editors. But like I said, with Jim's case and everything, right? His book was so polished. The one thing that you probably want to hear from Jim, but I give him accolades, right? Because Jim can write. His writing style and everything is great. And so when you see a book of that magnitude, so where you don't even catch any grammar-like errors and stuff like that across the board, again, it's up to them to decide if they want to, get it edited by a professional editor or whatnot. But Jim does a great job of really his writing style. It really stood out to me. But at Wise Acre Comics, the one thing I do is try to give creators tools to be successful through making sure that because we get so many eyes on our projects, and we also get a lot of feedback too when it comes to putting your books and everything out there. And so, as creators and everything, right, we have to be able to embrace that feedback to get better. And so that's why I built out the entirety of a roster to where we have editors, we have inkers, we have pencilers, we have artists, everything out there, the colorists, letterers, across the board, everything, right, that they can pretty much utilize to assist them in creating their stories and bring those stories and everything to life. But like I said, in Jim's case, his book, I will not change not one thing about that book whatsoever. That book is perfect. That's a testament to his hard work on his team. And like I said, he put some effort into this book. And
Jim, this is your first comic book. You're not a writer by trade. You're in healthcare. So how did you create this gem on your first time at bat?
All luck, man. No, I don't know. I was really good in English. I'm an English minor. I don't know if that helps at all. But minored in English. And then, I took, I remember some courses in college as well that I probably should have paid a lot more attention to. But I think that helped me a lot. And then I'm just really enjoy, I guess, editing. As dorky as that sounds, just wanted to make sure everything was good to go. No grammatical errors, anything like that. It's kind of cool. Sometimes I'd send over, I guess, like the script to the artist, and he might do something a little different. I'm like, all right, no big deal. I can just tweak the dialogue or tweak the setting a little bit to kind of match up, or vice versa. But again, it was just working with a great artist, because I feel like we were just both kind of on the same page. But honestly, my book doesn't have that many words in it as far as dialogue goes. So that was I mean, pretty easy to edit on that end. But yeah, the script, that was something new. Stumbled upon a script for a comic and just kind of looked to see how that was made. So I was like, all right, okay, this is what you have to do, set the scene, all that good stuff. Maybe kind of tell him, oh, he's looking there, pointing the gun there, shooting him in the head, blah, 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 something like that. So yeah, that was really helpful. And that was actually like when I donated to a Kickstarter campaign, that was one of the things you could get, the prizes or what have you. I forget what they're called. Apologies. But it was a script of the comic. So I was like, all right, let me read this and see how they do it. So I just went from there.
Sweet. No, to be honest with you, you did it the right way. You did your research, and looking at other like crowdsourcing and crowdfunding examples and reading a whole bunch of comics gives you an idea of what to do. But then you still got to get down and see what a script looks like and see how it's broken down. And then I think my advice to any aspiring writer, your artist is your co-creator. They are like the actors and the casting director all rolled into one. And so, you kind of got to give them a roadmap. But then if they're strong and they're talented, just let them go. Don't try to harness or rein them in too much. Because they will surprise you and take your story in places that you didn't even know was possible.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, I put something like explosion, and Fritz just made it completely awesome. So, I mean, you write one word, and then the artist basically takes it and runs with it usually.
Yeah. Most definitely. We've got a comment here from Chris. What's up, Chris? Longtime buddy of mine, Texas Longhorns fan. So me being a Michigan fan, we get each other every once in a while. Chris, great to see you. And did you have any advice, Fred, for Jim in terms of best practices for the next time, or is it like you're dealing with Stardust right now, so it's all good?
Like I said, Jim has a complete book, right? He had a complete package. He's probably one of my best submissions that had come to the reads and everything. That I was like, wow, I was just awestruck. And you don't get that often, and everything, especially in the indie space where you see a book of this caliber, everything look that way. And so, again, I give all creators everything freely away because I want them to create in their space. And so I don't get any restrictions whatsoever, everything, right? Oftentimes, we have a private chat on Instagram and we drop pages and stuff through our feed. And so we see a lot of the work and everything that's been done, and we're all in awe of the work that's been done by all of the creators, everything in there. And so at the end of the day, like I said, I don't want to put handcuffs on creators. Hey, let me look at your work first and foremost before you go push out a book and everything, right? No. Tell your story. It's your story. It's not mine. And as a publisher, it's my job to make sure I give you the tools to be successful in everything. And so they know they can reach out to me at any point in time. If they're thinking about something ideal, they can run it by me and everything, And so, at the end of the day, they're family. I treat them as such. And so I just love to sit back and just read their stories. I feel like I'm in the best seat possible and everything, to be at the front in the front row, and getting pretty much the chance to see all of these stories they have to offer.
And we're out on the Wise page right now, and you have a ton of IP here. Like, you've got a magnificent amount of titles here, and it's hard enough to get one book out, and you've got an impressive roster. And it looks like you've got sci-fi. You've got obviously westerns. It looks like City of Demons. Looks like it's some sort of like a old time cop thing, like story, like you really run the gamut of a different myriad and of genres. And so, what was it, or just tell us about Wise, how you came up with it, and then what was it about your drive to create this publishing company that then opened the doors for everybody else?
So, I go back to what got me into this arena and everything, right? Into this space was back in 2018. I was really thinking about comics, and pretty much, it was an afterthought in a way. I kind of like fell in love with it, when I was in college. It wasn't until 2018 when my mom passed away. There were two pain points, well, there was one pain point and a good point. So my mom passed away in 2018 from cancer, and then Black Panther came out around the same time frame, and it was like, again, that pull and everything that was there, to where I felt like, that movie had a profound impact on me, and I felt like I wasn't getting enough of the diaspora when it comes to African mythology. And so I knew I had a story back that, from my junior high days in high school, junior high, that I kind of like just played around with and really take it serious and everything. Like Jim said, I probably should, pay attention a little bit more. But I had two stories, and I decided to go ahead and write both of those stories and everything. And then from there, I had no clue where to start when it comes to comics and stuff. I just knew that I was a 90s fan of their art style and everything. And my brother was a huge Spawn fan. And we came up on DC Comics more so than Marvel, right? And so, but every time I go to the comic book store, I wasn't seeing what I really wanted. And so at that point, I decided to take a chance on myself and decided to create, not an IP, not a publishing standpoint, but just a couple of series here and there. And I was able to reach out to a couple of peers within the space and kind of give me some words of wisdom. And then from there, I went back on my roots and everything, right? Because I was a huge Image fan. Love Image. I love Milestone. But I wanted to learn a little bit more about how I was able to thrive, but also lessons learned in the process of building a publishing imprint and how to do it by the right way. And so I created this family dynamic, this ecosystem, to where, we was more so of a family, and I wanted to tackle all different genres, just not one genre per se. And so I built pretty much a new form of Image and Milestone, combine everything to be able to tell stories that people would definitely enjoy.
No, definitely. And it looks like the ecosystem that you're building is quite vibrant. A lot of great looking visuals. The artists that you've got are fantastic. And then adding creators like Jim to your roster just builds an even stronger library.
Yeah, I kind of learned that doing Phoenix Fan Fusion when I tabled there and everything for the first time. And people were really impressed with the table because I had so many books, everything out there spread wise, not only from just, my personal creatives and everything, but also other creators and stuff too at the same time. And people were in awe of like, man, this is all you. And I said, it's all of us, it's a collective, and we have more that's coming. And so we have some major announcements that's coming out, throughout the year. I'm looking forward to more books, more projects, and I can't wait to make those announcements.
And so, Jim, now that you're in Fred's circle, are there other stories that you've got where it's like, okay, I'm telling a Western, but now I've got a space horror or a spy story? Like, what's your muse telling you right now?
I would stick in the Western genre, to be honest. Really with the technology and all that stuff, I just find it a little easier to stick in the Western time period. It just seems a little simpler, to be honest. So yeah, I'm gonna stick in that realm. Hopefully.
And it's interesting that Fred, that you mentioned Image, because while their move away from the mainstream, from the big publishers, was a huge move, it's amazing the ripple effect that it's caused for anyone that was buying comics around that time, right? Like the 90s, depending on how old you are, there's like an opinion of the 90s. Everyone has their, it was this, it was that. But it's undeniable that it was a wellspring for a lot of the creativity in the indie space and also in mainstream that we're seeing now.
Yeah, I think because again, at the end of the day, the handcuffs were off, right? These creators and these artists, everything had creative freedom to create what they love. They weren't restricted, and they told stories, and they was able to push their stories out without any constraints whatsoever. And I think that was a beautiful thing because the community got behind them. To me, they took a chance on themselves. They betted on themselves, and it paid off big time. They found their niches and everything. They really the genres and stuff that they really enjoyed creating those spaces, and they didn't have nobody to tell them what they couldn't do. And I think that's really important when it comes to indie, right? Having that space to be able to share your story, because at the end of the day, the originality of your story is worth something. It has value to it. And like I said, Jim's story is worth something to him. It's personal and everything. And I think that's what Image really wanted to share with the world. It's what really made them successful in a way too. If you look at Spawn is still one of the longest ongoing series ever. Who had imagined that? And to me, that's just a testament of learning from two companies on a different spectrum of things that I picked up from Image. They gave us a blueprint to follow in a way, right? What was successful. Talk to the guys who were at Milestone 2 of what to do and what not to do. I study a lot of Dwayne McDuffie's work. I love his work, But at the same time, too, Dwayne McDuffie kind of give you a glimpse of what you should be able to do on your own versus what you should not do too, with the likes of going for a big publisher, right? And and being tied down or being bogged down. And so I wanted to make sure that when we're talking about Jim and the other creators, everything out there, their voice don't get suppressed within the process.
Yeah, no, that's important. I think the ability to be able to create without shackles just leads to more creativity, because you can always rein it in, right? But it's hard to go get that spark if you don't, try to create as many fires as possible, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like playing it safe, and that's the last thing you kind of want to do.
Definitely. I know now for me, I probably won't tackle Western because that's something I'm still raw and everything on. I let Jim have that one and everything. But there's other genres and stuff I would definitely love to tackle and everything too. And you'll see a lot more of that coming out next year, some time frame. But I just love the challenge, right? I love the challenge to go into a space that that allows me to do research, to learn a little bit more and everything about it, and create stories that I think will really, really resonate with people. And so we're going to touch on a lot of things, a lot of spaces and everything too at the same time. One story I'm writing right now with a co-collab with Pat O'Malley with Velvet Vein is one of those stories. I touch on a community that I felt like are always hiding in the shadows because they're not being embraced and everything. And it's just a different vibe, a different world, and it allows for me to tap into a space that I'm uncomfortable with, right? And so you have to be able to go to those depths to become a better writer, a better creator, and be able to share those stories.
No, definitely. Jim, what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Couldn't agree more, man.
So what's the biggest surprise that you've both encountered in the indie space? Whether it's creatively, whether it's on the business side, whether it's on the crowdfunding side. What's the one where you went, oh my God, I didn't see this coming, or, you know, this is more than I had thought. Is there anything like that you're willing to share?
Yeah, I can go first on that one. Yeah, I would just say kind of be careful who you team up with in regard to, I don't know why my grammar's so messed up. Like publishing. I got in with maybe a different publisher before. Just really wasn't the best experience. It might have been my fault. We didn't kind of hash out the some things beforehand. I mean, looked at the contract and everything. Looked pretty good. Had someone else review it too, but there was something they kind of threw in at the end. My book was completely finished, but really just we didn't agree on the price point because my comic's only 22 pages long, and I mean I understand people need to make money, but it's 22 pages long. You can't really charge a certain amount of money for a 22-page book, and so we were kind of going back and forth on that a little bit. But then just kind of had to end it, I guess, so to speak, and might have cost me a little bit of money to get out of that, which was kind of surprising. But yeah, just be careful out there.
And Fred, yours? Yeah, so I think one of the biggest surprises and everything is being so new in this space and scaling as fast as we are as an indie publisher. But more so, people really been receptive to our works and wanting more. I will tell you, that can be it can be a good and bad thing too, right? Because even though they want more of your works and more books and everything too at the same time, we're not a Marvel and DC cloth, right? We don't get the millions and millions of dollars and everything, and it takes money and funding to really create a book. And so we utilize crowdfunding platforms to offset those costs and everything to the same time. I would tell folks, right, lower your expectations a little bit for a yearly release or a bi-monthly release and everything, because again, give us a little bit of grace, because it takes time to create books, because we're working adults. We have day jobs too. and so we're busy as well, but we do love to create stories and everything too at the same time. And a lot of times that funding comes out of our pockets to pay for a page, to pay for colors, to pay for letters. And we do it because we enjoy creating stories. We want to see our books, everything out there in that space. And so again, give us a little bit of grace and everything. But I'm really surprised at the turnouts and stuff we have at conventions. The emails and the messages and everything we get, the crowdfunding support as well. It just blows me away. And that gives me the opportunity to say, what, we belong in this space. We're here to stay.
No, definitely. There's space for everybody. And you got to get your stories out. That's the big thing. And one thing that we discovered in our journey is that the audience decides, right? The audience, basically, or readers, your fans, will decide whether they like it or not. Because we have our own taste as creators, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to translate to the populace, right? And I know from our end, one of the things that we discovered, other than fulfilling the Kickstarter as like the biggest, like, oh my Lord, it's just printing. The cost of printing and shipping. it could be prohibitive of getting your stories out there. So like digital is great, but when you go to a convention, you can't have digital.
No.
Right? So then you have to figure out, well, what's your print run? Right? It's all of these kind of things that you have to kind of get used to and figure out the ins and outs of what works best for your company, or just as a creator, because not everybody wants a garage full of issue number 1 of their book. that they can't move, but they also want the book at a decent price point. That's so they can afford to get it printed, right? Yeah. And what are some of the, I guess, pearls of wisdom that you realized the first time you went to go down the print route?
Understanding margins. You have to understand margins. If you bite off too much more than you can chew and everything, and so and Jim can attest and everything is this right as well. The one thing we did when we prepped his campaign page was look at how much things were going to cost us. When it comes to making things affordable for backers, but also making sure that we get able to pay for everything where we're not coming out of pocket too much at the end of the day. And so it's a delicate balance, right? And so you're right. Print costs, especially in this market today, paper is going to go up. It's going to increase. And printers, like Jim said, everybody's trying to make money, right? And printers knows there's demand for comic books and stuff too at the same time. And so they're going to increase their price points. And so it makes it a little bit harder for us to maintain affordable price points where we don't increase prices to the point where we're trying to compete also with Marvel and DC price points too at the same time as well. But what indie the community has to understand, and it's an important conversation I think we need to have. We don't do a 10,000 book print run. We might do a 100 book print run. That 100 book print run might cost us way more than it would cost you to do 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 print run. And so it all comes down to margins, because we got to also fulfill those orders. We have to ship the books. We have to package the books. We'll do all those things behind the scenes that cost money. And so a lot of times we crowdfund only makes a small dent into the actual cost it takes to really fulfill that campaign. And at the end of the day, what's left for not only the publisher or the creator is nickels and dimes. And we don't complain, because guess what? We love putting that book in your hands. We want to see the book in your hands. And we'll go where we need to go to everything to make that happen, right? And so at the end of the day, like I said, we're going to make it happen, right? That's that in this space. I don't know how creators are pushing out so much content, but they're making it happen. They really are. They're hard workers, and they're making it happen every single day.
Absolutely. Actually, I'm going to bring to the stage Mega J. How you doing, my friend?
Good to see you guys. Apologies for the tardiness. Things are just going crazy.
You're not tardy, man. You're not tardy.
My dentist says otherwise. So it's a.
Dentists are always making people wait. It's all good.
Oh man, they just want cash like everybody else, man. They tell you things that aren't real.
I hope everything's going.
Things are good, man. Things are good. A lot of crazy news happening in the world of toys and comics. As always. So yeah, a lot of freaky stuff happening right now. But things are good. The move is happening slowly but surely, but things are happening. So other than that,
well, congrats on that. Congrats.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, no problem.
In time for me to show up, anyway. So
yeah, definitely. No, we're Jim is the writer of a new book called Western Vengence, and it's out through Wise Acre Comics, which is run by Fred. And we're just going through the perils of indie publishing and indie life, and like some of the pitfalls you can hit, because like I'll be honest with you, and Jim, you may disagree with me. Coming up with the idea is the easiest part.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then next is producing the book. That's the next easiest. If you can either get the talent or get the money to produce it, it's then printing it, promoting it, running a crowdfunding campaign, getting it to market, getting it in front of fans, going to conventions. That's the hard stuff.
Totally agree. I mean, that's kind of where my book stalled out. It was fully completed. And then I was like, all right, I need to print it. Let me look around for this because I need some help with the printing aspect, all that good stuff you just mentioned. So yeah, I mean, writing it. I guess if you have the funds, because I don't draw, No one wants to see that. So yeah, hiring the artist and all that good stuff. But yeah, once it was completed, I was like, I need to find someone to help me out with the print.
Excellent. And Fred, do you do like what's your recruitment? Like, do you look for like 2 new projects or 2 new creators a year? Like what's your slate?
So usually I open my submission queue up in December, and I run it at least about until April the following year, and before I close it down and everything. And during that process and everything, I might get between 60 to 80 some odd submissions that might come through the fold. Out of those 60 to 80 submissions, I might only pick 5 individuals during that queue process. And so it's very highly selective. And a lot of times everything too is I'm looking for quality stories. I'm looking for, who's the art team, how much you're willing to put forth effort into your work and everything too, right? And so, at the end of the day, I'm also looking for opportunities to mentor young creators that want to get into this space. And so, even though if you don't have a great, a great starting point, a foundation, but I see that potential in you, I may just ask a simple question. How much are you willing to invest in yourself to get to where you want to go? And Wise Acre Comics and myself, we can put a team around you to get you where you want to go and everything, right? But you have to be willing to take that step, and we can show you the way. So I also look for those opportunities and everything as well. And so at the end of the day, that's why I say the house and everything is a creative family, because we work together on a lot of things just to provide feedback to make us better creators and everything in the process.
And can anyone who's doing submissions, can they get it through your website?
Yeah, so if you scroll down to the bottom and everything, there's a little link there. We kind of make it hard for you in a way, unless you reach out to me directly. But the bottom of the page, the footer and everything, there is a submission link there that kind of gives you a lot of information that's required to submit things and everything to Wise Acre Comics.
Got it. And I'm seeing here that you have Bookshop. Like, have you done audiobooks for your IPs as well too?
We're looking into it right now. And so that's we definitely going to take a look at in the future.
Yeah, there's Jay and I have talked about this, and we've got some stuff planned. But there's definitely a market for getting the visual connected to the audio and then combining it. There's still a market for that, almost like serialized retelling or telling of a story that people love. I know that there's a lot of true crime podcasts that are going through the roof in terms of audience viewership, and I think all sorts of narratives are ripe for that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think one series right now we're taking a look at, The Meadows, is one of those series and everything, because it fits in that crime space as well as that supernatural space and everything as well. And one thing I want to do going forward to the future and everything is provide books and stuff without dialogue, right? And utilize audiobooks to offset the storytelling aspect and everything of it, to where you're visualizing but also listening to the dialogue and everything at the same time as you see through the artist lens in a way, not just the writers and creators and everything, right, but also the artist lens, because they're so much more a part of that process.
I'm going to date myself here, but I don't know how many of you remember as a kid you used to get Marvel and DC books that came with a little 45. Mm-hmm. And you'd read the book and it'd be narrated, and then it'd be like some sort of a ding at the end of every page, and you turn. We really are just kind of going back to that without the record. Yeah.
One of my favorite books was when DC did. It was a Batman adventure. The particular story was when he was hallucinating. He was actually like kind of going crazy. and his father, he basically saw the death of his father, and somebody had broken into the Batcave or something like that. And it was done with a cassette tape. It wasn't a 45. But it was a cassette tape. And I remember that being one of my favorite. It was kind of like a read along, you know what I mean? Like you'd hear the page turn, the beep, as you said, Steve. But I remember the dialogue being so cheesy, and it was just so bad. But I loved it because I didn't necessarily have to read, you know what I mean? I was just listening to the story and just looking at the visuals, and it was almost like watching a cartoon, you know, in my head. So it was a really different experience. And if you actually follow a whole bunch of YouTube channels right now, I actually experienced the entire Last Ronin book from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles through a YouTube experience, and I thought that was excellent. Because one of the things and I'm not sure they still do this. Probably Steve, you could tell me. One of the things I always enjoyed in elementary school was sitting down for story time with the teacher. You know what I mean? And they would just like through their own creativity, they would make the story captivating. You know what I mean? By making little noises or making little emphasis on what they were trying to convey in the novel or the literary work. So I always thought that was something which was a great way of engaging with the audiences. So I thought that was great. And if you guys are engaging at that, I'm really looking forward to it. That looks great.
Yeah, no, it still happens for sure. And the thing that kind of surprised me, because I'm a former teacher, is that it's not just the little kids that like it. It's like I taught up to grade 6, and you'd read a novel and they'd just love to hear you read. They'd sit at their desks or you'd sit at the carpet or whatever, and you just read and you'd ask them questions just to make sure that they weren't drifting off. But it's kind of like hanging around the campfire or hanging around, the colony fire or whatever, like when we were not as civilized as we are now. It was stories that kept us together. It's stories that carried on traditions. It's stories that inspired us. And we're just making modern mythology, or really advanced cave drawings, essentially. But it's part of the human spirit. It's part of what makes us what we are. And I don't see it ending anytime soon.
No, not at all. Like I said, I think this space is especially within comics and everything, right? The indie space is very important because we need to hear those voices, and that's what makes it special, right? Outside of the big two, Marvel and DC, indie has something special to offer. Like I said, it's very unique voices and everything. It's new stories that really captivates the audiences and everything too at the same time, and to keep people wanting coming back for more, something different that it has to offer.
Yeah, most definitely. When it comes to being creative, Jim, I'm going to throw this one at you.
Sure.
What do you use to kickstart your creativity? Is there music? Do you sit down and you go watch Sopranos and binge it? Like do you go back and take your fill in of the Lethal Weapon trilogy? Like what do you do?
Man, I just sit there and I'll be like, okay, have a decent story in mind, and just kind of put it on paper. I still use paper to write my story down. But yeah, honestly, don't. I mean, I'll go back to like a movie or something like that. Just kind of think about a cool movie that I saw. But really, it's just like, oh, this thought pops in my head, and then just kind of go from there. Really random stuff will pop in my mind, and I'll be like, okay, let's see where this goes. Let's see where this if this can become a story or not, something cool. So then I'll just start kind of writing stuff down.
And Fred, what about you?
Yeah, like Jim said, I might get a random thought that pops in my head. And oftentimes I might be just out and about, right? And I might overhear somebody say something like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Matter of fact, I'll write that down real quick. But I'm also, like I said, a movie connoisseur. So I digest a lot of movies and everything too, right? And I kind of go back to the old movies that was really, really, to me, great. They were corny at the same time as well, but I think they had like a lot of potential ideas you can actually seek out and everything too at the same time. And so I really binge watch a lot of 80s and 90s movies and stuff like that too at the same time, and so I get a lot of ideas from that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. James is going to laugh at me. I think it was, I can't remember the name of the company, but they had released the Gundam original series on YouTube, and they were just streaming the whole thing. I think it's not Sunrise, is it?
If it was an official release, it would have been a Sunrise.
Yeah, it was Sunrise. So Sunrise was officially putting out the OG Gundam series.
Yeah,
and I sat back. And when did that come out, James? That like 81?
Oh God, no! It was 7. It was in the 7. It was
79.
No, I think it was like 79, 80.
All right, so it's post Star Wars, right?
Yeah,
and you can
like
kind of see the you could see the influence of Star Wars. But I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, man, this stuff was great, and it reminded me of like here in Canada we got Force 5. Which were like a whole bunch of anime shows that were basically about giant mech, right? Or we had Robotech or Dutchman, Battle of the Planets. But those things were the ones that kind of kickstarted, along with comic books, that kickstarted my love of adventure and stories and stuff like that. And I know we had those shows like $6 Million Man and Wonder Woman and all those kind of great shows as well too, but I would say that it was the cartoons, right? And Jay's big on 80s cartoons. Like 70s, anyone who knows them, 70s and 80s, anyone who knows them, like it's He-Man and Ninja Turtles and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man. Yep,
that's right up his alley. But to this day, those still fuel us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, there are certain IPs which honestly have a legacy behind them, but it's great to see all the Japanese cartoons. You know, Astro Boy, Battle of the Planets, Force 5 as you talked about, Grandizer, all those great old
Mazinger,
cartoons. Mazinger, yep, Mazinger. Space Cateers, all those great shows.
James, Space Cateers, man, that's a deep cut.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. Leiji Matsumoto, man. Galaxy Express 39, all these great shows, right? As you said, Gundam. The reason it's called 0079 is because it happens in it's actually a reference to 1979, right? So the Universal Century 0079. But yeah, like you look at those old cartoons and you think, oh man, these illustrations are kind of crap. But the reality is they were actually pretty damn good. But it's the story really that you look for, because it's kind of funny, and you want to talk about dating myself here. Between Ralph Bakshi's version of the Amazing Spider-Man back in 1978, which was a classic, it's an absolute classic, to his stint on Rocket Robin Hood. If anybody remembers that,
you mean 68?
Yeah, 68. Sorry, that's true. 1968, correct?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then Rocket Robin Hood sued their just prior to that, right? And you could tell because they actually reused an entire episode. Was just literally ripped out of it.
Dementia 5.
Exactly. Typical Ralph Bakshi move. But it's those types of things where the narratives were taken, and of course his Lord of the Rings, right? Mm-hmm. Again, just a lot of great things, a lot of great stories to be told. But one thing that has lasted the test of time has been comic books. And comic books just continues to come back. And if you're talking about Japanese comics, manga is just massive. It's just like an industry like 10 times more than what it is here in North America. So, if we could only have that kind of like readership, like because it defies age in Japan, right? It goes from like, as early as you are in like 6 or 7 years old, all the way to like 40, 50, 60. People are still reading comics, right? So now we're finding that now our generation is actually up a little bit older reading it. But the younger generation is into manga now, right? Manga is just a huge thing. And the younger generation is really into manga, right? So, but in terms of like the traditional media, we still need these stories. We still need people to tell their stories, right? So, Jim, keep writing, man. Keep making this happen, because there's an audience out there, right? And, you guys know it. It's just that sometimes it takes a little bit longer to hit. But once it hits, there are people who are just hungry for this kind of stuff. So it's always important to keep this up.
Oh yeah, like look at the granddaddy of them all, Superman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's arguing whether this gun version is going to be any good. I don't really think that that's the question. It's the fact that Superman is so endearing that you can have him in a TV show, a cartoon, several cartoons. I don't think they've really ever gotten him right in a video game, other than maybe Injustice. But even then, he's kind of like an alternate version of himself. But he is as popular as Spider-Man is, and as popular as Batman is. He's the one. He's the old faithful, where everything comes back to him, because like when you think of all the other franchises that are absolutely raking it in right now, they're using Superman tropes and archetypes to tell their stories, whether it's Invincible, whether it's The Boys.
Yeah.
He's the standard bearer, and everything else comes next.
Yeah, I mean, you could even argue that Master Universe He-Man, he uses the meek persona to superpowered God, right? When you think about it, he needs a medium to transform, but at the end of the day, he still is that type of idea where his alter ego is a very weak and unassuming person, right? But when he transforms, all the good things about him, all the great things. In a lot of ways, even Captain America is that kind of idea. He started off as a really weak individual, but then you know what? He was given an opportunity, and he showed what really is his intellect and his compassion that really make him different. And that's always been the one thing that shines with Superman, right? But we have seen more interesting stories as well, where if you put Superman in a different situation, what if he landed in Russia first, and what if he
Red Sun's fantastic,
yeah, right? So those are things that happen, and writers and creators have been able to explore those ideas, and that's what's really important. We need, as with everything, we need new stories and new narratives to see where that goes.
And you brought up a good point, and it just clicked in my head, and I'm going to throw this to both Fred and Jim to bring it back to the theme of revenge and vengeance. The thing that vengeance does, and I want your thoughts on this, there's an inciting incident that takes you from being meek to being superhuman to even the wrong. What are your thoughts on that? Jim?
Yeah, it's how far are you going to go, I guess? I mean, are you just going to do what you need to do to, I guess, quote unquote, exact your revenge, take it a step further and maybe become the person that you are exacting revenge on, I guess, so to speak. Just how far are you going to go, I guess, when it comes to when you are exacting your revenge on someone who has wronged you.
So I look at it with two lenses, right? Built-in conflict as well as a more complexity. And what I mean by that everything pretty much is we look at it from a built-in conflict standpoint, we're talking about, that more dilemma, the violence, the tension that really, brings out the revenge in that person. And then we look at it from a standpoint of more complexity. I look at the gray area between you being a hero and then your alter ego of you possibly becoming a villain of your own story. And so to me, from a revenge standpoint, because I go back to Punisher, right? When people look at Punisher, do you see him as a hero or do you see him as a villain? Because he's hell-bent on, getting revenge for you murdering his family. And he has a moral complexity to where it really makes that character very special.
I agree. I'm going to throw this out to the three of you. Are revenge stories or stories that are centered around vengeance problematic?
Well, I was going to bring up the idea. There's a movie that just came out with Lawrence Fishburne and the guy who played Freddie Mercury, who did a Absolute
Oh,
fabulous job.
I know exactly what you're talking about. He was an iRobot. He was in Bond.
Yes.
I'll find his
Same-
name.
exactly.
Remy Malek. Remy
Yes.
Malek.
Yeah, they just had a movie called The Amateur.
Yep.
And the whole movie centers around just he's a pencil pusher, right? He's just an analytic. All he does is just study analytics, right? So basically, he works for the FBI or the CIA. I can't remember one of the two. And all he does is crunch numbers every day. But his wife is killed in an incident, and he just wants revenge, right? So he goes through the entire department trying to figure out who can get me into into this area to take revenge. And of course, nobody's going to help him. I mean, that's not what they do, right? You don't the CIA, the FBI, they don't take revenge, right? But he goes to everybody, all the black ops, everybody that he can to learn how to become this thing. But then he fails at all of that. He fails at everything. Like Lawrence Fishburne is actually, a black ops agent, and he literally says, he challenges him. He says, shoot me now, and a loaded gun, and everything, and he can't shoot him. But what ends up happening is he gets pushed to the point where he's like, revenge absorbs him to the point so much to the fact that he figures out a way in his own head to take revenge, and he does it in the only way he knows how, which is to outwit and out analyze, and really like find literally MacGyver revenge scenarios, right? And that's really how the whole film plays out, right? So, is he a villain, or are these people so bad around you that they deserve that type of thing, right? There's the Frank Castle dilemma, right? As you mentioned, right? Because he's not only taking revenge for his family, but he's also taking revenge for everybody's family, right? I mean, that seems like basically when you engage with the Punisher, that's what he's looking for. But then another aspect of that, isn't the Batman doing exactly that? Isn't he taking revenge for society, right? Like everybody who's been wronged, because his parents were taken away. Now no criminal is safe from the Batman, right? So it's that moral dilemma. So the question of Batman has always been the same thing. Where is that imaginary line, right? Where's that imaginary line that you don't cross, right? Like, because they know the only thing keeping Batman from killing people is that promise he made to his parents, right? In his own head, right? In his own freaking head. That's the only reason why he doesn't do it, right? And that's a sociopathic behavior, which we most of the time we don't subscribe to that. But everybody just wants to see, what's it called? What do they call it? Karma. Everyone just wants to see the karma. Everyone wants to see the bad guy get their comeuppance. And there's only one person, in these stories, there's usually only one person who's willing to do that, willing to make that stand, right? So fascinating.
That's a great point. And the reason why I brought it up is the reason why I said they're problematic, or I wondered if they're problematic, is because do these stories resonate because we have an inherent, almost innate lack of faith in society and the construct of law and order, that it's actually working? Is that why these things resonate? Because like you would think, I've been wronged, I'm going to call the cops. In all of these movies and in all of these kind of situations, and we've seen it, there are countless people on the planet that there is no justice for them, right? So do these revenge stories kind of highlight the failure of our society to right those wrongs that you're talking about?
Well, I kind of go back, and I want to spoil Jim's story, but there's a certain point in his book and everything, right, that brings everything full circle, per se. And I'm not going to run it for everybody, right? But it gets to the point to where it's like, even when I look at Batman or Superman, and you see them in the lens of, could it ever be a villain based off of their revenge? In a sense, no, because like I said, you got the person rooting for them all the time because of karma. You want to see them get their revenge. You can never depict them as a villain in a sense because of what has happened to them. Because if you put yourself in their shoes in that moment, you'll probably do the same thing that they're doing. And you still got that same revenge. And so, to me, that's there's no line, right? I always felt like for Batman, You couldn't draw a line in the sand with him at all. He would always cross that line, regardless of the fact, because it goes back down to the root and the crux of the story. You killed his parents. And so that would be his central focus point, to always be a part of his story and everything when it comes to him. Same thing for Frank Castle. You killed his family. If someone kills my family, then I'm going to plot revenge. I'm going to go to that place. And like you said with the amateur, they killed his wife. And he went through a variety of different things to get revenge. Yes, he was MacGyver in that movie and everything in a way, right? He outsmarted the system to get what he wanted. At the end of the day, that's the crux of everything of it, right? You would get to a space and to a place because you want to get there. And it doesn't matter what. No one's going to stop you. And so in Western Vengence, that's why I feel like these characters and everything here, we're talking about the son and the father, right? The father is the good conscience for the son. But at the end of the day, there's another side of the story and everything too, to where there's no conscience at all, because he already made up in his mind that I'm going to get revenge. And he's hell-bent on that. And within that landscape, in that environment, in the Western society, to where, the Western theme, to where there wasn't really a developed country during that time frame, you took law and order in your own hands. Batman did the same thing pretty much. He's taking law and order in his own hands. Superman is doing the same thing. Justice. How do you define it? You define it in your own way. And that's the beauty of comics.
Yeah, Jim, do you have any comment on it?
Mine was going to be a lot more simplistic, just because I have small children. So really, it's if my small child, someone steals his toy, he hits them back or does something towards them for quote unquote revenge. I mean, I think it might just be kind of human nature, as cliche as that may sound. Like if someone wrongs you, you just want to wrong them back. And then, I mean, at the end of the day, are you going to ruin their whole life for them making you look silly or something like that? Like, are you going to take it to the next level? Are you just going to do what they did to you? Like they punched you in the arm, or are you going to punch them back in the arm? And then you're like, all right, we're good. So I think it might just boil down to human nature. If someone wrongs you, you want to wrong them back. But are you going to take it a step further? That's kind of how I look at it, I guess.
Yeah. So it's interesting, because morality really is the defining factor in many of the things we're all hovering around. We're saying what we're saying, but at the same time, we also got to look at morality too, because it's interesting with Batman, because the for example, the audiobook, the audio story I was talking about, it was interesting because there was a part in the book where Bruce Wayne is having a flashback, and actually he's relating a story to Robin, and he says, I can remember as far back as my university days when I was studying law, and this helped me to define whether or not I was going to become a policeman, right? Because he thought when Bruce Wayne was studying to figure out, how he could best serve society, he thought, becoming a policeman was probably the best idea, right? Because you can learn about that, or becoming a lawyer. So he was in a law class, and the professor of the law class basically puts a theoretical concept to everybody, right? So let me put it to you guys. Let me say it. I'll recite the actual passage, right? So a group of boys, a group of three boys decides to steal a car for a joyride, right? Just before, I guess, just after taking off from the car for the ride, one of the boys decides that, you know what, this isn't for me. I'd like to be let out. So before the driver of the car can actually let the boy out, they hit an old woman and kill her. So what should, under the law, right? And this, I'm guessing it's American law. Under the law, how should the second boy be treated how should the second boy be? Sorry, the boy who was let out of the car, who wanted to be let out of the car, how should they be tried in court? Like what would the logical outcome of this be? So, putting it to you guys, what do you think should be the because I already know the answer, but what do you guys think should be the outcome under jurisprudence, under the law, at the time, American law? And I don't know which state this is. I guess it's the Gotham state, I guess. But what do you guys suppose should happen? And then I'll tell you guys what the professor said. So Jim, you know what do you think? Because you said eye for an eye, this kind of thing. But what do you think would happen there?
Okay, so we're in Gotham.
Let's just say we're staying in Gotham.
They're all thrown in jail.
Okay.
Let's see. All right. So one of the kids wanted out, but he was still in the car when the person got hit and killed.
Correct. He was still in the
car. We're just gonna say he got manslaughter, I guess. I mean, I need a little more information. This
is just a really simple question. So just on an overlying statement, what do you think should happen?
I guess really the one that wanted out, we'll go with manslaughter, and then the other two, I guess, whatever the harsher punishment is.
Okay.
Pretty sure I got that wrong.
All right. Well, let's. Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
I'll take a shot at it.
Sure.
And then we'll let Fred finish it up. So to recount, the kid wants to get out of the car.
Yes.
But before they can exit, they run over this individual.
Yeah. And the three friends are willing to testify on his behalf that he wanted to be let out of the car. Let's just put that out there. Let's just put that out.
I would have to say that that individual wouldn't be charged, if I'm understanding this correctly. They would be charged for taking the car, but not for the woman being injured.
Okay.
So it's almost like you're an accomplice.
So by what you're saying is that he should be charged for this. So did you say the theft? Is that what you said? So you're saying that he should be charged for the theft, but not for manslaughter.
Right.
Okay. And Fred, any thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say kind of similar to what Steven said.
Okay.
He should be charged with something.
Sure.
I don't think he should get off scot-free everything in this matter or whatnot.
Sure.
And in a way, he put himself in position everything for being in that in that same space, and manslaughter wouldn't be off the table as well.
Okay.
Because he did aid in a bet. He did aid a bet. Something a situation that led to the woman's death. So I can see where manslaughter could be on the table for him. But I'm sticking with my first.
Okay. So Bruce Wayne goes on to say that in my opinion, the boy all three boys should be charged with Grand Theft Auto, right? But the one boy who wanted to be let out of the car should not be charged with manslaughter because he was not complicit in that portion of the crime. His professor. So basically, that's very similar to what Fred said. But the professor basically says, well, you'd be wrong. Because under the current law, and remember, we have to talk about when this was written, right? That boy would be just as guilty, under the current law, that boy would be just as guilty as if he was behind the wheel. So then that goes in line with what Jim said. So then basically Bruce Wayne comes up and says, but is that justice, professor? And the professor says, no, Mr. Wayne. That's the law. So going back to what you were saying, Steve, someone like Batman does not believe that the law is enough to punish criminals, right? Someone like the Punisher knows that the law is not able to punish criminals, right? So they take matters into their own hands. But then you also have characters, throughout who just feel wronged, by society, and unfortunately, that's where morality really comes in. Not to get too dark, but just this past 2 days, there was an incident, and I don't know if you guys heard about this. And again, I don't want to get too far into this, but I don't know if you guys know what IRL streaming is. It's kind of screwed up right now. So 2 in real life streamers.
You're talking about this
thing in Vegas?
Yeah, in Vegas.
In Vegas.
Yeah. So insane. So absolutely ridiculous. So I don't think I need to talk unless Fred, you know what we're talking about, or
no,
not really. So basically, because Jim and Steve know more or less what's going on, basically 2 in real life streamers, IRL streamers, got into beef with each other. So much to the point where one of them false copyright striked the other one, basically nearly taking this channel down. And this one streamer who felt wronged, slighted, if you will, heard that the other streamer and his wife were in Vegas. He hunted them down and basically popped them, and they did not survive. Right? Wow. So that's where, again, your own sense of morality starts to really play on you at this point. And that's a thing. Where, like, talking about escalation, talking about, where does this lead to? Superman is breaking the law. Batman is breaking the law. Wonder Woman is breaking the law. All of them are breaking the law because they ignore it. They all ignore the law because they feel that they are responsible enough that they can make the decisions that the governments and the society can't. But is that right? It's all based on your own, and this, as the reader, it's based on your sense of morality, right? Because there are a lot of people out there who actually do say, no, Superman's a criminal. Batman's a criminal. Wonder Woman's a criminal. They're all criminals, right? Because they're not following the law, right? So there's a lot of things. But when you as an individual have been wronged, right? I look at these cases. A father, right, could not protect his child from a predator, and you know what? And she'll never have children again. Whatever. What does the father do? Literally tracks him down in front of the courtroom and basically pops him, right? Because he would have done it again. They would have done it again, right? Where does it stop, right? Where is justice? Because think about it, the loopholes and things like that. Legally, they probably could have, just been sentenced as it probably could have pled insanity, right? I'm sick in the head, right? He just put me in a mental asylum. 6 years later, they're out doing the exact same thing again, even though they're registered offenders, whatever, right? It doesn't matter, right? So where does it stop, right? And you're not in a state with lethal injection. You're not in a state with all these stuff. You're in Canada. You can't be. You get you basically 90 days you get out, whatever it is. I can't remember anymore. But this is the conundrum, right? And this is what makes for good stories. Right? This is actually what makes for great stories, right? The idea that you are questioning, right, the implications. This is something for philosophers and for scholars and all that kind of stuff. But we're the ones bringing these stories to the forefront. The fact that these stories are so engaging and so meaningful to so many people is because people continue to want these stories, and they want to keep reading about these tales of karma. Right. And what's it called? Finding out, fucking around, find out. I mean, that's basically what it is, man. If you're really if you push somebody to the edge, sorry guys, if you push somebody to the edge, just how far are they willing to go? You know what I mean? It's crazy. What's that? There are several movies. I mean, like John Wick. John Wick is a great example of a movie where you just push the guy. He was out. The dude was freaking out, and all. You know what? Some punk kid just decides to kill his dog. Like, whoa! You did not know who you were effing with, man. You did not know who you were effing with. Nobody's another great example of that. Yes. Love hurts. All these crazy stories about hitmen becoming, regular people, and then all of a sudden, something pulls. I tried to get out, and they pull me back in. You know what I mean? This is the kind of thing. But they're great stories.
Definitely, and I. I remember I said earlier, are these stories problematic? But are they also cathartic?
I love that. You said it, like ding. Yeah, he's right.
But isn't there a level of catharsis though, where we all feel, we can't do that, but this character can do that. I can tell you, as a kid, I cheered Clint Eastwood many a time, wiping out an entire set of bad guys, the Outlaws, right? And you felt good at the end of the movie, right? Mentioning some of those old kung fu movies where the villain is just, like the mustache twirling kind of villain, and you just want to see them get absolutely wiped out. And I think it speaks to something that's like deep within all of us, and that's why these stories still resonate.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's an escape in a way, right? It's a fantasy, everything too at the same time, but especially in the world to where justice sometimes feels delayed or denied. I think we look at through it from that lens, and comics allows readers in a way to live out that fantasy, and that's either taking matters into your own hands through those different types of characters and everything too at the same time. And so I think that's why it's so popular within the comic space. Revenge, it has a character and everything in itself too.
Yeah, and I think of Jim and his love of the 80s movies. And man, you think of Stallone and Arnold. Basically, all their movies were like revenge movies. Someone did someone wrong, and they fixed it. And it was that kind of lone wolf. Like the 80s was basically the lone wolf saving everybody when the entire system couldn't.
Yeah. I think we'll let Jim have the last word on this one because I think we're almost out of time, I guess.
Yeah, and he's got children to look after.
Yep. Yeah, man. No, I really appreciate it. You guys are great. This is actually my first what is this? I don't even know what this is called.
This is a podcast. You can say live stream. It's all that.
That's why I'm writing a Western because I am so out of my depth here. But I really appreciate it. You guys are great. Yeah, that's it, man. You guys have a great night.
All right.
Thank you,
Jim.
brother.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, best of luck on the book. Right. It's been great to meet you, brother.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Y'all take it easy.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, you too. See you, Fred.
So, Fred, we're going to take a look at the campaign one more time, because we've got to get you some more backers. And I know there's like 20-something days left, but we want to make sure that we get as much support for you as possible.
I appreciate it.
All right, so here we go. So let's go back to the top. We have got 26 backers with 22 days to go. It's fully funded. Western Vengence, 22 pages of grit, guns, and justice. Lock and load for 22 pages of wild shootouts. Sharp one-liners and explosive father-son fury in a showdown of the Old West. So how many campaigns have you done in total for Wise Acre?
I lost track.
You know what? It might be on the page.
We've done quite a few and everything.
So this is our 17th.
This is the I want to say the fourth one we have done this year.
Okay.
Actually, yep, the fifth one we have done this year.
Wow. And so that's basically one a month.
Yeah, so our goal was to do for this year and everything when I came back stateside was to launch a campaign every single month because the books, everything were ready to go. We didn't want to wait and hold them from indie creators or anything, customers and stuff across the board to enjoy these stories. And so I told the house family and said, look, you know what, we're going to go ahead and push out a book every single month. And then the hardship though about that though is the hardship we're dealing with right now is just printing. Make sure things are printed in a timely fashion, and then getting shipped and everything too. So that's been one of the biggest struggles, everything we deal with and everything so far, fulfillment wise. But every book should be ready to go this year and pushed out in the customer's hands this year.
That's fantastic. Now, a question, because we're past this cycle, and James, you might know this with the project that you're doing for Flip War. Have the tariffs or the proposed tariffs, are they affecting anything in terms of like paper or rising the costs for indie publishers as well?
Oh yeah, we have seen increases everything when it comes to shipping tariffs and whatnot too at the same time. And if you're getting stuff from if you're not printing domestic, and you're getting things from international printers and everything too at the same time, you don't know if your boxes will come in damaged or not, because they're going through everything through customs. They open up all of the boxes and stuff to check and everything, verify. It's a mess. And so we're looking at domestic options and everything, right? But again, if you're going domestic, we're looking at print costs. We're talking about paper costs, because we're running out of paper. And a lot of times we get our paper from overseas.
Right.
And so that's getting baked in on the back end, and that's costing the consumer.
Do you have a digital option at all, Fred?
We do.
Okay. Yeah, I find that's always a really good option today. With the digital readers, and of course, people consuming on phone. So it's always a great option. What is your most? Do you know what your most popular item is for the rewards?
Usually, it's always the exclusive bundles and everything, right? That we normally do. I think the Kickstarter bundles we did for
so it's
$25.
the double shot exclusive right there. Do you want to go up a little bit?
Which one do you want me to look at?
Up KS exclusive, yeah.
There we go.
So this looks good. So what could you walk us through the KS exclusive? What is the double shot?
So yeah, you get 2 books in a way. You get 2 covers. So you get both physical books and everything, both the regular cover, but also the blue cover, which is pretty much a variant cover. Everything's away. And then you also will receive still the digital PDF and everything to the same time, but also you receive, I want to believe, the digital artwork bundle. And so there might be some selected artwork that Jim's will select that he really likes, everything, include that in the bundle package and stuff as a digital outlet. So it's one of our special tiers, everything we normally would push out most of the time, make sure it's affordable to the backers. And it's one of our popular tiers, everything on there.
That's awesome.
Definitely. You can't go wrong with artwork.
And only for $25, right? So that's a great opportunity. Holy crap.
Yeah, no, some great prices. And they've also gotten, I was scrolling down to this one, the Lone Ranger. Let me see if I can get to it.
There it is.
Their last 2, actually, this one, they have artwork that's original, being drawn by the series artist, by the artist. So that's great stuff.
Beautiful.
And that's going for $195 US. And the thing about it too is that, and I think that these are 9x12, so that's almost the size of a page. And a page rate for an artist is like $150 US. So for all the stuff you're getting, and you're getting a fully drawn image with background, that's a good price.
That's amazing. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And what about the collector number 1 Renegade? Which one is that?
So again, that's the one. Again, you get the cover A, the physical cover, blue cover and everything as well. You also get digital PDF, digital art bundle. We're going to add a 6x9 poster, a metal bookmark also involved in that tier. And this one, where you would get a 11x17 pin up of a character with the background. And this is by the artist that has done also the artwork and everything on Western Vengence.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we have 22 days left on this campaign, and a lot of opportunities and great rewards. Yeah, so I'm very excited. Steve, how about yourself?
No, it's a great campaign. The book looks great. It's beautiful. It's I can't wait to read the story. And I love Western, so this is right up my alley. And the good thing is it's already funded, because they've already met their goal. So we just want to push it higher and help them mitigate some of the other costs that they may have, for sure.
Because we're not funded. We're not funded yet. We're still. I think we're roughly like between
$300. I think
$5 and something like that away from funding.
Let me double check. I thought you made it.
Yeah. They're very close. They're very close. They
We're
only
close.
need about $350. They're very, very close.
Well, that's good because you got 22 days left. Yeah, you're just a little bit short. You're about $300.
Yeah.
$350.
This is it's not only they're definitely going to hit it. I 100%. But we want to go way beyond that. We want to get double this amount so that we can get all of those additional goals and really give these guys the extra boost for the next few issues. So yeah, guys, definitely if you have the opportunity, check out Western Vengeance on Kickstarter. And that should bring it up right away, right, Fred? I think.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. So it should be it's a really great read. They have a wonderful team on board, and they only need a little bit more to reach their first goal. But we definitely want to get that double, triple, and help them along with the additional issues and other projects they have for their team. So yeah, brother, thank you so much for being here. And what are your but express to us, what are you thinking, and how much longer do you think this book can go? Like is it going to be an ongoing serial, or do you pretty much have...
So Jim is up in the air interview with it. Really, it depends on the success of the campaign. I know he has more story to tell and everything. He did it pretty much as either a one shot or ongoing series. So like I said, I don't want to run it for everybody, but there's some wiggle room and everything that's there to where we can continue on with the series and everything. But it just depends on how successful the campaign and everything is. Where we end up at, how successful the campaign and everything is, and then we'll think about the future and everything going forward. And I know in the back of his mind he wish he could do a trade, but at the end of the day, it depends on if the support is there and the backing and everything is there for the series going forward.
Excellent. All right. So yeah, guys, do you have a website that we can visit as well, where people can get more information about as well?
Yeah, Wise Acre .us is our website. I think it was on there a little bit earlier and everything today.
Yes, we had it.
We do post a lot of content and everything on there.
We'll have a quick look at that. We can look at the rest of the catalog that you guys have,
Sure.
Other projects that have been funded in the past, and obviously, if you guys are interested in seeing some of those, I mean, like they have quite the library. And some other things that you might enjoy as well. So yeah, I mean, like you said earlier that you choose about 2 projects to work on every year. Is that what I heard correctly? Like 2 artists?
So normally we go through submissions and everything. I would choose between 4 to 5 in that range of submissions that make the cut, and then I go through and kind of like draw those individuals and everything down to at the same time. And normally the time it's roughly like 3 might pan out. We might go forward with everything throughout the year for submission purposes and everything. So everybody doesn't make the cut, right? But I continue to tell them to come back to us the following year to resubmit, because we get a lot of submissions. We get like 60 to 80 submissions throughout the year and everything. And I go through it in depth to make sure I capture as much information as possible about the creator and their universes and stuff they're creating. So it's a very selective process. It's very strenuous and everything to go through and read all of the material. A lot of times, again, some people are just in beginning stages, and so we do look for opportunities to mentor and provide perspective and everything about this space. And so that's something I'm really, really passionate about as well.
That's awesome. Steve, can you play that? I'm interested to see the animated series there. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. You can put it on mute if you want. That way we can just enjoy the visuals.
Hang on a second. I just want to I'm in a new window. Just
sure. Go for it.
I'm going to go to YouTube and then mute it.
Is this ongoing, Fred? Because that sounds exciting.
Yeah. So this right here was actually a test of what it could be and everything. So it wasn't really the final and polished product and everything. We wanted to take just a snippet of what it would look like. And so this is my flagship title, Magnus Jakuta. And so I'm definitely looking forward to working with Spoof and everything going forward into the future on the animation series and everything for it. But it's just a little bit of a taste of what could potentially be.
You want to put the audio on, Steve? I think it might be cool.
Yeah, we can.
When darkness descends from the stars, only the chosen will rise.
Dad?
No time for doubts. Trust your training.
Then, we're ready.
Then let's bring the fight to them.
And heroes will be born.
Magnus, you are in danger. You must come with me immediately.
Alliances will be tested.
Feel my wrath.
In a world just like ours, destiny calls for the most unlikely heroes.
Did you really think you could hide from us, General?
Look at this puny weakling.
Magnus, get out of here. Now.
This will be easy.
Join us for an epic saga. Join Magnus and the Jakuta family in the fight for our future.
Wow, that was incredible.
What of my brother, Stamos? Dead, my lord. How unfortunate.
That was amazing.
That's pretty cool.
That's incredible. Yeah. So do you guys visit a lot of conventions throughout the year, or?
Yeah, so this is my first time really doing a convention trail and everything. So I've been overseas for like the last 3 years, and so I'm just getting back stateside and just retired from the military and everything. So I'm just kicking off the convention trail for this summer. My first one just finished up everything at Phoenix Fan Fusion, which was a very successful convention. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next one coming up here in Las Vegas. So I'll be at Amazing Con, and then also in September we'll be going to LA Comic Con as well. So a couple of ones coming up and everything. So I'll be out there on the trail.
That's excellent.
Very cool.
So yeah, best of luck to you guys, and of course we're gonna try and funnel as many new readers to your campaign.
Awesome.
And yeah, Steve, I'm excited. So this is good. This is going to be great.
Yeah, it looks great. The animation looks great. And I've already backed some of your campaigns, and I know the books are top quality.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So, Jay, before we bid everyone adieu, any last anything that you want to say or direct towards Fred?
No, I just want to wish Fred the best of luck. Wonderful, and I'm looking forward to that animated series. I think it looks amazing. Just one last question: who are you working with? Is it an independent company, or do you have a whole bunch of artists with you, or?
Yeah, so independent company, everything. For the voiceovers works, I went with a couple of individuals, everything out there in this space, this creative space. Some have worked with professional companies, everything too at the same time, but they're all within the indie space as well. So there's voice actors from both, the States as well as Nigeria and Africa. From an animation standpoint, I'm working with Spoof Animation on the series. And so they're more of an indie animation company and everything that's based in Africa, mainly because I chose them, mainly because Magnus Yakuta and everything has a African mythology that's laced with Orisha mythology. So I wanted to make sure I went to a really, really good source to really capture what we're trying to produce and everything.
Mm-hmm. And I think we should let Fred have the last word for tonight about the campaign and what else he's looking forward to. So, Fred.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having us on and everything. Again, we do quite a few interviews, and this one definitely looking forward to coming back to. So definitely reach out, let us know. We have quite a few campaigns coming up this year. We're actually running one more right now with City of Demons with Parker and his book and everything as well. Just launched on Zoop. So this is our first time actually launching a campaign on Zoop, that platform. So looking forward to discussing a bit more about that campaign in the future. But again, it's been an honor speaking with you tonight and everything, and appreciate all the support thus far on the Western Vengence campaign. I know we're going to fund, so there's no worries or everything there. So definitely looking forward to getting this book out in the many hands as much as as many as possible. And again, this is where this space has really done a great job for us, everything through the support.
No, well, you're always welcome here at Comics Asylum with Jay and myself. We had a pleasure talking to you and Jim, and we look forward to doing it again.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Wishing everyone a good night. Thanks for tuning in, and keep it indie.